I need your help. There's a gap in my knowledge and I think you guys might be able to help fill that gap. I'm talking about renovating older houses in the UK and working out whether it's possible to make them airtight. How realistic is it to retrofit a typical home in this country to increase its airtightness? What products, materials and processes work best? Is it practical? What will it cost? And will airtightness save enough money to pay for itself over time? There's a whole lot to unpack here, so I'm going to start by explaining that I've been doing what most of us do when we need to learn something new. I went on YouTube to find answers to my questions. I've recently been watching a lot of videos about products, materials and methods aimed at improving the energy efficiency of existing homes by increasing air tightness, as well as videos that look at the problems this creates and how to deal with ventilation, condensation and heating. I've created a playlist, and in this video I'm going to share what I've learned so far, and then I'm going to ask you guys to post links in the comment section to any videos you think I should check out. If your video is useful, I will add it to the playlist. I am especially keen to hear from anyone in the UK who has retrofitted an older property, or if your work involves air tightness, whether you're a homeowner who's learned from self-building, or you provide professional services, products or materials, I want to know about it. If this works out, I will make a follow-up video. And of course, if you are watching because you just want to learn about air tightness, we can go on the same journey together. If you want to check out the playlist, there's a link in the description, so let's get started. Why am I doing this? If you're new to the channel, my name is Neil and I'm an architect based in Edinburgh. I've been altering, extending and building homes since 2009, and I make content showing how this type of work is done. This is the first time I've tried audience participation, and despite the fact renovating older homes makes up the majority of my work, I'm only just starting to learn about the cutting edge of energy efficient retrofit methods. The simple fact is, I haven't needed to know this stuff because the building regulations don't require it. But the writing is on the wall. The UK has 30 million dwellings and we only build about 200,000 new homes every year. Building regulations for energy efficiency in new homes are being increased all the time, but it won't make any difference unless we do something about the 30 million existing homes. The problem is variety. There are so many different types of property, building methods and varying standards of construction across the UK. Retrofitting insulation to an old building often doesn't work because of air leaks, and new insulation can actually cause problems by trapping moisture inside the house. A one-size-fits-all method isn't possible. Some existing homes will be easier to retrofit than others, and I need as much information as possible, which is where you guys come in. The internet is a big place, and I hope that asking my community for advice will cover more ground. What have I learned so far? So let's start with what I know, and then we can fill in the gaps in my knowledge. Passive House plays a big role in this, but I don't think it has all the answers. In case you don't know, Passive House is a voluntary set of standards for designing and building new homes to make them super efficient. Now this goes far beyond what building regulations require, although Scotland is about to introduce a Passive House equivalent for all new homes, and I suspect the rest of the UK will follow in the next few years. I should say I am not convinced that a top-down approach dictated by government is going to have the desired results unless we massively invest in training for the construction industry. But that's a video for another day. The Passive House Trust have a less onerous requirement for retrofitting existing buildings, which they call inner fit.
PH.
From what I can see, Passive House are focused on setting targets for energy use, air tightness and thermal efficiency, but I'm looking for practical, real-world examples that I can use in my day-to-day work. The first thing I learned from YouTube is that before doing anything to an old property, it should have a preliminary air tightness test. This video from the Ecological Building Systems channel went into detail on the deep retrofit of a cottage in England. The first thing they did was depressurize the building while running the heating and then scan it using a thermal imaging camera to see where the heat was leaking out. This step identifies where to focus the effort to get the most bang for the buck. So rather than tearing a house apart, going back to the brick, it might be possible to significantly improve air tightness with a more limited intervention. I also watched this training video from the Proctor Group. Now they make various membranes for the construction industry and I've used several of their products in my own jobs. The video is over an hour long and packed with great info, but I was very interested in their solutions for making existing solid walls airtight. It is possible to plaster the inner surface, but that can be expensive and time-consuming. Proctor make an adhesive-backed membrane called Airtight that can stick to the inner surface of a brick or stone wall. They also give a really detailed explanation of the risks associated with retrofitting insulation to a solid wall versus a cavity wall, and that's really worth listening to. I found this short from the RH Insulation channel that shows how to achieve airtightness on a traditional suspended floor. They retrofitted insulation between the joists and then laid a membrane over those joists. They taped the overlaps in the membrane and can do the same with any membrane on the wall to create a fully integrated airtightness barrier. But older buildings often have weird junctions and complex geometry, and sealing them with membrane can be impractical. This video from Voltaic Energy Systems shows a liquid-applied airtight membrane that can be sprayed over hard-to-reach areas. This is something I want to explore more because it has the potential to save time, particularly in larger properties. One thing I haven't found is how to work around historic features such as cornices in listed buildings. If you have any experience of this, post it in the comments. One area that needs special attention is penetrations in the external wall and roof of the building. This is another video from Ecological Building Systems showing examples of sealed penetrations in the external wall. They mention how these can be used in retrofits, and if anyone watching has used these products on a retrofit, let me know. I want to know how practical and effective these methods are in the real world. Of course, if openings for pipes and wires can fail, then bigger openings around windows and doors are a major issue. This video from the Ecological Building Systems channel shows the steps taken to create an airtight seal around a window opening. Preparation, primer and tape around all edges of the window. And while it is possible to seal around windows, the windows themselves also need to be airtight when closed. If you are renovating a home in the UK, you should check out the sponsor of this video. Sunflex UK design and manufacture aluminium windows and doors in the UK, and their products have been tested to ensure they meet Passive House standards for airtightness. I believe Sunflex offer a great balance between cost and quality, but don't just take my word for it. Check out these videos I made about Sunflex products in my own projects. The videos include the cost for each installation. There's a link up here and also in the description below. Another great case study is this house in Scotland, featured on the Reimagine Buildings channel. This is an existing property that was both retrofitted and made larger by its owner, who did much of the work himself despite having no construction experience. One thing this video mentions is intermediate airtightness testing. That is, doing a test just after the windows have been installed but before the walls and ceilings are finished. The idea is to find leaks before the work is too far advanced, because it's a lot more expensive to fix things after building work is done. The other thing I know is that airtightness is only part of the puzzle. The point of increasing airtightness is to keep as much heat inside the building as possible. The problem is that this also traps moisture, smells and stale air. The standard solution appears to be some form of mechanical heat recovery and ventilation system. I found two different ways of achieving this, but if you know more, put a link in the comments. This video from the Life at Lee channel gives a review of a product by Ventaxia. This home relies on a centralized air supply and extraction system. It sucks stale air out and separately sucks fresh air in. The point of these systems is to control the air quality and to recycle the heat from the warm air in your house by using clever pumps to use the warm air to heat the cold fresh air coming into the house, thus saving on your heating bill. One downside I can see is that the larger the house, the more vent pipes are needed. Each room must have at least 2 pipes, one supplying fresh air and another extracting stale air. I've retrofitted a lot of old houses, and finding space for regular heating and drainage pipes can be a massive challenge. Adding in ventilation pipes would be a major undertaking, especially in taller properties where fire separation between floors is a mandatory requirement. This video shows a clever design solution that avoids the need to run pipes around the house. Each room has its own extract fan. This product has a dense ceramic core with a honeycomb structure. The warm, stale air is sucked out of the building through the ceramic, heating it in the process, and after a minute the fan reverses and sucks cold, fresh air back into the room from outside. But as it passes through the ceramic honeycomb, it warms up. They say it's about 80% efficient, meaning you only have to pay for 20% of the heat in your home. The downside is that every room needs a hole in the wall for its own fan, and that might not be practical, and it could lead to the exterior of the house looking like it's been peppered with these things. So what have I learned? Well, first off, this is highly invasive. It doesn't seem to be possible to achieve airtightness without stripping a house back to the brick. The specialists even use the terms shallow retrofit and deep retrofit to distinguish between a moderate intervention and the kind of work it actually takes to achieve airtightness. From the videos in the playlist, I can see it is possible to achieve really low airtightness figures when renovating old buildings in the UK. There are products on the market that can seal older buildings, and a lot of research has been done on the impact of condensation, vapor control, and breathability. Some of the projects in these videos required mixing and matching products from different suppliers to achieve the end result, and I don't like the sound of that at all. The sheer variety of existing housing stock seems to prevent a simplified one-size-fits-all solution. There are various ways of controlling air quality, condensation, and humidity, and these systems can actually save money by recycling heat. But one thing I can't determine is what this costs and whether the long-term savings on heating a house make it worthwhile. If you have recently done something like this in the UK, I would love to hear from you. Get in touch on the reallifearchitecture.co.uk website. There's a link in the description. And if you are thinking about altering a home anywhere in the UK or buying a house that needs to be adapted to suit your needs, you can book a consultation with me on the Real Life Architecture website. I can advise you on the likely cost of construction, planning and building regulations issues, and whether a more realistic or effective alternative exists for your property. If you found this video useful, please hit the like button. It really helps the channel. And if you want to see more content like this, you should subscribe. I make new videos every week.